Hey, my name is Chan. Welcome to Rambld. Today is August 20th, 2018, and I was going to get started about how I was excited about the movie Crazy Rich Asians. But before we do, I just want to give a quick backdrop as to how this got started. Initially, I wasn't really even sure if I wanted to do something like this, but then after talking to my girlfriend, and then I was explaining to her why I like the Crazy Rich Asian, the movie, so much. And I tell her a bunch of other stuff in general, and she mentioned that maybe my ideas are worth mentioning on the internet, on YouTube, so I was like, maybe I'll try it. So here we are. Welcome to Rambld, and let's get started. I want to begin with a joke. What do you call a genetically enhanced cat?
What?
You call it Katica.
Oh.
Oh my god, you get it?
Yeah.
I hope you get it the fifth time.
You got it right this time too.
I know. The reference is based on the movie Gattaca. That's a movie about human engineering. It's pretty cool. I recommend it. It's about how humans are eventually engineered in their genetic sequence so that they have, like, for example, if they're a pianist, they have 6 fingers, so they play better on each hand. I mean, imagine 3 on each. Anyways, joke aside, let's get started. So the reason I was so excited at the movies was because Crazy Rich Asians was an amazing movie, and that's it, yeah, great. No, at first, when I first heard the name Crazy Rich Asians, I think I was in bed with my girlfriend and I was like going through the YouTube. And then like this ad popped up, right? It seemed like a bunch of people were having a fun time, young people that were attractive, also being Asian. And then I was like, man, I really don't like this movie. I mean, so like I grew up in a society where if it's anything remotely Asian, it's always like stereotyped into, look, it's like an Asian ninja, or look, it's like an Asian geek, computer scientist, mathematician, engineer. Or if it's a girl, look, an Asian girl who loves sucking dick. I don't know. My guy, that might be too much. But I mean, they make Asian girls like always like ending up with some other guy in like the movies and stuff. And there's like the whole thing about Asian girls and white guys. That stereotype exists. I am not against it, but it is a reality. I feel like whenever I mention that, people like think like, damn, you're like so protective. You're like so like, don't date my woman. Like, I don't give a crap about that fact. I even got some people together and they're getting married. Happy for them. So I thought, with all that said, this movie was going to be something similar to that aspect, where it's going to be, look, now we have a bunch of new rich Chinese people or rich whoever that recently got super rich from the, I guess, the miracles that happened in Asia, and now that they're filthy rich. I thought it was a stereotypical movie of people spending a crap ton of money losing their mind because they're crazy rich Asians, right? That's what I thought it was going to be. But then, being the NPR loving person that I am, I was coming back from work one day and I had a NPR station just playing in the background, and it talked about how Crazy Rich Asian was like a new way of like exploring the Asian mind, Asian identity and stuff like that. And I was like, interesting. Now that was a different twist to what I expected, right? Because I thought it was one of those stereotypical like go crazy kind of movies, just replace white with Asian and add more Asian stereotypes. That's what I thought was going to happen. But no, this movie apparently had more of a subliminal like reason behind it. When the director made it, I mean, I wasn't really sure what that was. It wasn't too clear from the just at least the NPR piece that I heard. But at this point, I still haven't done any research, so I was kind of on the border fence with this when I came home from work. So I was like, hey Angel, wanna go watch this movie? And she was like, yeah, I do. And I'm like, oh, what? And she told me about how she was watching some other clips online about that movie. So I was like, okay, we're on the same page. Yeah. So after that, what happened was we planned for a date night. So we went out on Saturday and we went to the mall. I'm bringing this side story up because when we got to the movie theater, holy crap, they had alcohol. I was like, wow, I might need this. If this movie is what I thought it was going to be, I was like, I'm probably going to need a lot more than a few drinks to get me out of this sadness. But I only had a double shot of whiskey. That was pretty good. Pretty gaming for the movie. By the way, I don't know like if it's frowned upon, but holy crap, that made the movie so much better. Okay, back to the story. So we watched the movie, and then as I sat through it, in the beginning I was like really cautious. I was still kind of skeptical of whether or not the movie was going to be good. But then, holy crap, by the end I was like, oh, I want them to be together. They're so happy together. I'm so happy for them. So it was one of those romantic movies. In terms of the plot, it wasn't anything really out of the ordinary. I mean, NYC professor who is poor in this plot is getting engaged, I guess. So maybe it's one of those Cinderella stories where like the main character eventually gets engaged to the male protagonist who's like super rich and really got a nice bod. like me. Anyways, so it was kind of nothing too unusual in that aspect. I would say that they really did a really good job doing some character distinguishment, where it's like every character in the movie really did feel unique in their own way, so everybody was able to show off their whole uniqueness, I guess. But I will say that there were some awkwardness in the movie that I wasn't really too comfortable with. I was like, oh, this is so cringy kind of thing. But for the most part, I mean, it was a decent movie. But then that's not what I am here to talk to you guys about. I just want to mention two things. The first thing that I want to mention is that alcohol in movies is amazing. No. So the first thing I told my girlfriend once the movie was over was, have you noticed that the word Asian was never mentioned once? Maybe once. I can't really recall. There was like this one scene where it's like they're all crazy rich. I wasn't sure if she mentioned like crazy rich Asians or whatever. But then like they haven't said the word Asian as far as I can remember, which is incredible because the whole movie was based on Asians, right? And this is where I guess it goes to the point where they don't mention anyone by the term Asian because they really portray people as individuals, right? And this is where I want to, I guess, eventually lead on to the second point where Asians are, for the first time in my opinion, like just seen as individuals. Which is kind of funny because the only white person in the entire movie was a barista. I don't think anyone else picked up on that, but there was this guy just serving alcohol, right? And that was kind of funny because that's exactly what I saw when I was in Japan, where I went to a bar and there was this white guy pouring a drink. That's the only time I saw a white guy in Japan society. But regardless of that side story, this was the first movie where I ever felt like I was portrayed. I mean, I feel like maybe my life isn't as similar to, I guess, other quote-unquote Asian Americans or even other Asians in this country or whatever. So maybe I couldn't relate with like the main character, the female, in that way. But then when she went to like Asia and then she like had like a really older mindset of what Asia was supposed to be and how she didn't really even belong in the culture there and how she just was different, right? And then that was the first time where I really feel like I saw a movie where my experiences of that was portrayed as well. I noticed that when a certain group of people, like let's say there's a country that they come from, for example in this situation, maybe China or something, when these people move to like a different country, for example Canada and Vancouver, or I guess Hong Kong before you became a part of China, they keep like the older traditions kind of. So it's like after they leave the main country, they preserve the same culture that the main country had. So as the main country, in this case China, or I guess whatever country, just develops and evolves, the tradition changes or the customs change, whichever people that left still has maintained the old traditions, which is neither good or bad, it's just that's the way it is. So when these people come back to the main country they're originally from, they feel super out of place. And I feel like this movie did a really good job demonstrating how that feels like, because the main character was wearing a red dress. I mean, this was something that I thought of, but I never really thought this can be portrayed in like a really effective way. But this movie, this director really, I could tell that this director might have thought this movie through a lot more than maybe even I'm aware of, because like these are just first impressions that I got, right? So anyways, moving on, I felt that the contrast that the movie provided between, I guess the main contrast that I saw, because it relates with my life, was the strong contrast between American Asians and Asian was very distinct. And then the whole term of, oh, who's Asian, then who's European, and who's African, like that's a topic for a different time. But then the contrast between the two groups of people, not just Asian, just different people, was very refreshing to me, because I grew up in a world where I was just Asian. Like fucking other Asians thought I was just like generically Asian, and I'm like, I'm gonna go to this Korean cafe. Yeah, I know how to speak Korean. Not really, unless you consider like second grade level of expertise as bilingual. I guess it is kind of, I don't know. In the past, when I would go to like Korean karaoke, or like if I go to like a Korean barbecue, I'm like, yeah, I don't really know how to do this. I don't even know how to play at karaoke. I don't even know how you order, or like what to order. I don't know what type of meat this is. I could pronounce the Korean words because it's like Korean spelling is pretty, logical. But it's like I could read it and be like, I don't know what the hell that means. And that's like my experience. But then for everyone else, I was that Korean guy who's supposed to be super Korean. So it was like, I didn't grow up with that Korean shit. Like I remember when I was really young, I came to America when I was in second grade. I was kind of Korean, but then not anymore, obviously. It's interesting though, because in USA, like I just mentioned, when I say I'm Asian or I'm Korean, people are like, oh, you're Asian, you must be like this or that, or you must know this or that. Like I met more non-Koreans who knew more about Korean shit than I did, which makes me go like, okay, like what does that mean? Like just because I'm blood Korean doesn't make me a fucking Korean. Like somebody could be blood German or whatever and come to USA. They're just American now, even though I'm still a fucking Asian American, right? I don't know what that was about. Anyways, I mean, I understand where people come from. There's a difference between racism and misunderstanding. For example, if I was in Korea and I met a guy who looks Asian, I'm not gonna speak English to that person, you know? Just like that, like if I saw a white guy in Korea, I would speak English to that person. That's just assumptions you might have about that individual depending on the circumstances. However, I don't think that's racist because you're not saying like you're Asian, so you must be like this. It's more like you're Asian, you probably had this lifestyle, right? Because I've made that mistake all the time. Like I've assumed that somebody was somebody that they're not, and that's fine in my personal opinion, as long as you respect them and understand them that they are an individual, right? And I think this movie really got to that, where in a society where we don't really treat Asians as individual people, this movie was the first time where I really felt like there were Asians that had great English accents, there were Asians with like British accents, Singaporean accents, and then Chinese broken accent, and all of that was fine with me. I mean, of course, I mean, why would it be wrong with me? I don't know. But it was fine in the way that they really did describe them as just people. Even whatever accent that they spoke was different from each other. Just watching the movie made you feel like, wow, this person is a nice person, this person's a jerk. And that had nothing to do with the term Asian, and that was really what I appreciated of this movie. And it's because of the fact that we saw them as individuals that we were able to realize that American Asians and Asian Asians are different. I mean, that's just what I got out of it. I mean, there's a term I think I've heard somewhere where it's like something is not real unless it's spoken. There could be an idea, there could be a thought, but once it's spoken, it becomes a reality kind of thing. I'm not sure if that's a real quote that I heard somewhere, or it sounds like I might have heard something similar, but it feels like for a while now there was a concept of what it means to be Asian American, what it means to be an Asian who does not belong in Asia. But then it was really hard to really grasp it, right? Everyone knew it existed, but then this was the first time where I feel like this culture became identified, which means now it's been spoken. It's a reality. We exist. We don't belong in Asia, but we are called Asians, right? This was the first movie where I really felt like I was represented in any way. Because if I watch like Korean stuff, right, I'm like, I mean, like I laugh, I understand a little bit. I think it's funny and stuff, but it's like that's Koreans. I don't really belong with them. I don't like relate with them at all. And then I see like American movies, like European movies, American movies or whatever, which is fine, but then there's always like that one Asian stereotypical person, and I go like, fuck, that's what I am to everyone else in the world, like in this country. When they see me, they just see like this Asian stereotypical person, right? So this movie was really like a first time I've ever felt like, holy crap, this is how everybody else in this country feels when they see a movie. They see someone that's similar to them that actually represents them, and I'm like, holy crap, this is kind of nice. I mean, obviously this is the first movie of this kind in my opinion, so it's kind of hard to say where it's going to be headed from this point on, but I am pretty optimistic of what this movie implies for our culture and where we're headed. So thank you for listening. This was Rambld.